Okay, a bit of delay, but we're here. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining to our monthly query research progress update. So the goal of our team is still the same as before. So hiding away the complexities of reading and writing across decentralized applications or decentralized environments. So this is the team. So we have a full team now. Well, Elias is joining online, but everyone is here. So that's good. So the format's still the same. First, high-level goal of each researcher, then accomplishments of the last month, and then targets for the next month. And then we have a brief discussion. So let's...
Should the slides be on the stream, YouTube stream?
Yes, should be. Elias, do you see the screen?
No.
Okay, that's a problem. Let's try this.
There we go. Yes.
Can see it.
Okay. Okay, so let's get started with Elias.
Sure. Sorry for not being there in person. I'm getting off of a sickness and wanted to give myself another day to make sure that I'm fully recovered before going out in this foggy, cold, wet Belgian day. So my current high-level goal has not changed since the last monthly stand-up. I'm developing personal genome data storage approaches that enable sub-file level granular privacy protections while supporting data queryability and shareability. So just making genomic data a little bit more usable. Next slide. What I've worked on, quite a few things. So there are a couple papers in progress, one of which is a demo paper for the user web client for interacting with solid pods called Solid Cockpit. All of the development is done. It's just about writing the paper. Our target is ESWC 2026. So the demo papers aren't due for a little while, but I've been slowly sort of compiling what I want that paper / demo to look like. Then I have been working on defining some specs that kind of go along with the Solid Cockpit, one of which is the addition of query caching functionality or just materializing query results to be stored and used later by a user. So that spec is finalized. And then there's also an LDP privacy notification spec that I wrote that is still a little bit under progress, but that is more attached to informing another user when you share data with them using LDP vocabularies. Then I've been working on this Sparkle Federated Query Survey, which has been going on for quite a while, but we are doing very well in generating data now. We decided that we needed replicates of the query executions. So I've been working on that and compiling and analyzing the results. They look promising, like there is some information to be gleaned, and there is definitely a story to tell with that data. So I'm looking forward to putting that into a paper. We are not entirely sure which conference we are going to target, but it will likely be something we address after the holidays and pick a concrete target. But we're hoping for something fairly high impact. So that's exciting. And then the good news that's happened in the past month, my genomic data sharing scoping review paper was accepted by computers in biology and medicine. So now it is just into the formatting with the editor and then actually getting it published part. So that is very, very exciting as well. And then I didn't list it here, but there is another paper that I've been working on doing VCF or genomic variant data conversion into RDF. And so I'm doing a little assessment of how RML tools such as RML Mapper or RML Streamer could be used for doing this conversion from a tabular sort of mutation file into RDF. And I'm planning on targeting the Semantic Web for Healthcare and Life Sciences Conference, which is in the spring. So the deadline is rapidly approaching. So then next, this kind of dovetails into my next targets. So get this scoping review in the actual journal. Shouldn't be too much more work, but very exciting nonetheless. Then finish the demo paper composition for Solid Cockpit. This short paper that I was mentioning about VCF semantic conversion implementation and looking at the metrics associated with it, like the computational complexity as well as the size complexity. We're also looking at representing it using HDT or gzip NQuads formats. So that is also quite interesting. And then, yeah, finishing up the data generation and the writing for this real-world federated query survey study. That is all for me.
Right. Thanks, Elias. So the SWOT for HLS deadline is December 1st?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And how many pages was that again? 4, right?
It's a minimum of 5, but there's no upper limit.
Okay.
So I'm going to aim for about 5 of text and then references and stuff.
Yeah, good, good. I see Fabien has a question.
Yeah, just Elias, could you remind me how is the scoping is actually expressed or captured?
Could you repeat?
Can you remind me how the scoping or the access right or the control is actually expressed and captured? What do you use to actually express the constraint on the scoping? Yeah,
so it is right now mainly using the ACL vocabulary within Solid. The spec that I was writing is mainly for just how the formatting should look and the actual vocabularies to be used to describe these sharing activities. It's not extremely detailed or expressive at the moment. We wanted something a bit more minimal. But in the future, we may extend it into including things that are more ODRL-esque, so very expressive.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Elias? Yes, Brian.
Yes, I was. Can you go back one slide? I was wondering what kind of functionality did you add for the query caching? And also the specification that you wrote, is it expressed into RDF or is expressed? I mean, is it a knowledge graph, the result that you are materializing, or you are materializing the bindings, or can you do both?
Right now we leave it. We don't address what a user must or like a developer must do. We say that it just needs to be in an accepted format. So something like CSV, bindings, or XML are the acceptable formats for the serialized results. And then your initial question, we don't formalize it into a knowledge graph.
Okay, okay. But could it be possible to add this option?
Certainly, yeah. But we don't, yeah, it's a spec, so we don't have a specific implementation that does that yet.
Okay. Okay, I see. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Unless there are any other questions, let's go to Jonni.
So my goal has also remained the same. I'm looking into client-side techniques that hopefully wouldn't depend on server-side implementations, but that's not really working out that well. But anyway, client-side techniques are my focus. And what I did within the past month or so, I started looking into options of allowing servers to declare authoritativeness over larger parts of a query. So not just using, for example, a URI prefix to declare or to assume authoritativeness over those URIs, but to actually express that they are responsible for larger parts of a query. And then I started looking into how to set up a benchmark environment for it with the server-side declarations. and that's I'm still working on it, but most of my time I spent on traveling around. I went to the ISWC conference to present the work on client-side federated querying and the current challenges with doing that over Wikidata. And then I also took some holidays, so that was most of my month. And within the next month or so, my plan is to continue looking to the authoritativeness of like over parts of queries and figuring out how to actually do it. And then also trying out some simple ideas with the hopefully working benchmark environment to see what the impact would actually be, and start writing the paper on those results. And that's my plan.
So what was your current approach of expressing the authoritativeness? I had two ideas. The first one was to just assume that the URI prefix in a word description is an indication of authoritativeness, or the URI regex pattern, but those don't cover multiple triple patterns. So next I started to look into the support specification language, but that one has a different goal because it's how a client should traverse links. So it's kind of the complementary approach to just the goal is to make the client not traverse, to not use certain triple patterns for traversal, and instead put them in a Sparkle endpoint. So the support things do the opposite. They say what you should traverse. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. Okay.
Because it can't be used as is. Like just
Brian, you
Yes. I was wondering, what does authoritativeness mean?
So basically assume that one source is the only source that is allowed to say things about certain resources, for example. So if you know that the part of your query is targeting some data that should only be acquired from a specific server, then you can just ignore that part of the query of the traversal.
Okay, so it's about the traversal and not about the data that you are getting.
It's about kind of both. Like if the data should come from a specific source, then you shouldn't look for that data through traversal.
But I guess what I'm saying is that if you were to acquire a document, and then it will give you information that shouldn't be there, do you somehow take out this information?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. No. Yeah.
Okay.
So in that sense, it's about traversal.
Well, in other words, Jonni is trying to investigate if it's possible to establish exclusive groups in linked traversal, because exclusive groups are very important when optimizing federated queries, but they don't really exist, or they don't exist yet in linked traversal. So Jonni is trying to figure out if they can make sense in linked traversal as well, because that would give some very significant optimization opportunities.
Okay, I see. And do you discover the authoritativeness, or you have it is it a post that you already know?
I was hoping to make it so that it's discovered during query planning, so not during traversal.
Okay, so now you have a query planning phase. Because in traversal you don't really have a query planning.
No, but I was hoping basically if I put it in the Sparkle service description, then Communica finds it during query planning, and then it can prune the specific parts from traversal.
Okay, because you already know the Sparkle endpoint.
Yes.
Okay, Okay. So you know part of the network, you do a query plan based on that to find the order of attentiveness. And then after that, you do the traversal based on this. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
All right. Let's move forward to Brian.
Okay. So my high-level goal is to optimize decentralized queries using data publication structure. So more concretely, data publishers sometimes they have artifacts, and they have artifacts that they use for different purposes. And what I want to do is to exploit those artifacts to do some query optimization. So we can go to the next slide. So I spent most of my month finishing my work on online schema alignment and creating a demo. So I finished my implementation. I created an NPM packages. I also built a demo web app, and also submitted a demo paper for the web conference. And the other part of the month, quite recently, I started to rework on my approach for query caching using query containment for federated queries. And what I did is outlining the contributions, so outlining what I really want to publish about it, because there's already quite some work that I've done about this. And I also started to do some related work, so some literature review about views in databases. So I focus more on materialized view, but also a little bit broader because it could be more significant. We can go to the next slide. So this month I'm planning to go on vacation for most of the month. And I'm also planning to, maybe not this month, maybe the month after that, to submit a paper about my query caching and query containment approach. So I need to create a cost model, because right now I don't really have one. I need to create some proof partially for the query containment algorithm, because I expanded what already existed there. I also need to have a more structured evaluation, because my evaluation right now is pretty ad hoc. And also need to obviously write a paper, but I've also started a bit to write a paper about it. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? So the demo paper was to the web conference.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I have a question. The next slide, I think. Yeah. So the query caching and query containment will the paper be on the query containment specifically, and the query caching is like a use case on it, or will it really be the whole system with the query caching and query containment together?
It's going to be the whole system right now, but I'm not fully sure, because it seems like we should maybe do two papers, but I'm not fully sure. But I guess I'm going to have a conversation with Ben about it.
Because the query containment, I assume, will be a heavy paper in itself with a lot of proofs and a lot of math. So adding the query caching on top of it.
Yeah, because the quote-unquote problem is that I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to create correct proof for everything for my query containment. So that's why I thought that I could do both. So this one could be weaker on the theory.
Well, you are strong enough.
So that's kind of why.
That makes sense.
But you did a lot of work already, right?
Yes.
That's yeah.
But it's just because there are
proof
some
part is still necessary.
Yeah, just because there is at least a previous paper on query containment into RDF, they created two papers to prove their system, like two whole papers. So I don't think that I have the time and the strength to be that thorough.
But how much do you diverge from actually these two papers and the proof and containment, and how much can you reuse?
Because yeah, I can reuse quite a bit, I think.
It's especially if you reuse quite a bit, and if you decide to create a whole new paper, but there is a strong overlap, it may be a criticism from your reviewer that in fact you are reusing a lot of the existing published work. So I think it also depends on the overlap or a delta you will introduce in your containment definitions and proofs.
Yes, because that's why I lean toward making one paper with both of them together.
Still, you will have to position how much, where is the delta, because it may be a criticism. So you will have in that paper to be clear on what is the same and what is changed or different, or adapted?
Because there's quite a lot of difference, because they were considering set semantic, and me, I'm considering backset semantic, and also back semantic, and I'm also doing it for predicate query. So there's clearly a difference. It's not something. It's not a small increment about the query containment. The question is how thorough do I want to be with my proof? That's more the question for me.
But yeah, we can discuss in our meeting in more detail. Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Brian? No. Okay. Today is your last day, right? Or Thursday?
Today's my last day.
Yeah. Okay. Over to Maarten.
Okay. So my high-level goal is to optimize decentralized querying using aggregators, which are a service in the ecosystem, like the solid ecosystem, that pre-computes a certain transformation and makes it available, so the result can be immediately used. And me, I'm focusing on query processing, so Spark query processing, and to make it efficient, I use incremental processing to do it. So what I've worked on in the past month is actually on a query aggregator journal. So yeah, specifically my high-level goal actually. So combining a query engine, the incremental query engine that I built into an aggregator. And specifically what I've been working on is the delegation of policies, which means that if you try to access a query result from the aggregator, you will have to prove to the aggregator that you actually have access to all the original sources. So you can only get the query results if you have access to the original sources. After this, I also worked on 3 specifications. One is two are very preliminary, and that's the aggregator specification itself and authorization for services. So the authorization for services is to put policies on top of services, which are, for example, streams or non-HTTP based protocols, to make sure that once a policy gets retracted, the stream or the protocol is actually stopped. So you don't have access, like continuous access to the data, whilst you actually are not allowed to access the data anymore. That specification. And the last one is actually a new protocol that I've made, an incremental protocol of the Spark 1.1 protocol, to get streaming results out of a query engine. So instead of just getting the result sets, you now have a service and event stream that gives you updates to the query results. So yeah, I put a QR code on there as well to link to that specification, because that specification, the incremental protocol, is actually pretty close to done. And it's in the final stage, so I put it up there. And then finally, I made a demo on this aggregator, on this query aggregator, with a watch party. The watch party already existed. We made it with just plain solid, and now we put the aggregator behind it to show that if you enable the aggregator, the application actually is much faster, and the latency is drastically decreased. And that one is submitted now to WWW conference.
Web conference.
Web conference.
It used to be called like that.
Well, Pumke always says dub, so I just. But yeah, the web conference. Yeah, next targets are just finishing what I've started on the query aggregator journal, and that's then it's one of the use cases that I have. Is the Elevate, which is a sporting application. It's the queries of that use case into the evaluation, and see that it actually goes quicker when you use the aggregator, and how much data. At what point does the aggregator become sensible to use? And then of course, writing the paper and finishing all the other specifications which are used in that journal. And then finally, we started a project with 2 other people that are building a incremental view maintenance engine. Tom Windels and Dore Sake from University of Hasselt. And we're planning with them to make a benchmark paper for IVM, because all 3 of us had issues with benchmarking our incremental view maintenance engine. So we've decided on making a benchmark of it for it to benchmark these IBM engines. And we're currently in the phase of creating the literature study and like researching a bit. And yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Why do you build 3 incremental view engine? Why not just one? And you all collaborate together?
Because all of them are with different end goals, I guess. TOMS is mostly made for streaming, so high velocity data. Mine is for web applications between Communica. And it was just a proof of concept, mine as well. And then finally, Duo is basing himself on SQL databases and really looking at the theory of IBM. And he's like, the thing that he implements is really based on theory, or that's what they always say. So they take an SQL engine, put the RDF data inside the SQL engine, and then perform like the state-of-the-art incremental view maintenance techniques on that SQL database. Then.
Okay, I see. And then they have another layer to reconvert back into RDF.
Exactly.
Okay, I see.
So that's like a different scopes of our work.
Okay.
Fabien, you have a question?
Yes, I looked at the QR. So it looks like you have already done the work of writing the aggregator incremental protocol specification in the format of WCC. Have you submitted it as a member submission?
Not yet. This is very recent. The demo paper was submitted last week, and like between then and now, I actually like made this protocol. It has been like implemented a bit, but not exactly this. So I will first implement everything, make sure that I don't find any issues or need to do additions or remove some things. I don't know. And once I have an implementation of it, then I will like consider further work on this. But the goal is to actually like submit it to W3C. Yes.
Okay, good.
That makes sense. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it's good.
Thank you.
Might make sense to prepare a 1.2 version already with the 1.2 specs coming out.
Well, nothing would change, so we should not change the number. Yeah, the goal of the specification was to change at the minimal amount as possible.
So it's a change of the existing spec. It's not a layer on top, or how does it work?
I guess it's a layer on top, because what you would do is, instead of requesting like what is it, application Sparkle, I think it is, and then like give the
well, there are 3 approaches actually. There's GET, and then there's the 2 post approaches.
So yeah, but all of them, instead of requesting like the accept, like one of the serializations, you do the standard thing with service and events, and that's like the text streams, I think it's the type that you need to specify. So actually it's on top, because you can just request that, and to make sure that you can actually still have content negotiation, I made a kind of a hack where you now inside the get posts or the 2 other posts, you put like a variable in the URL and say like, I want this serialization, so you can still have content negotiation. So you actually put your your header tag that you would usually put in your request, you put that now in that serialization or in that format parameter. So you can actually request multiple serializations with like a favorite one, I guess.
It might also make sense to create a small addition to the service description specification, so that you can discover if an endpoint supports your incremental protocol. That would be useful.
Indeed.
But in any case, do send me the link after the meeting, because I want to have a look at it as well.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Yeah, because you said that the other person from Carrie Leuven is testing the state-of-the-art method for incremental view maintenance? Is it because view maintenance with graph databases versus relational database are very different? They don't. The theory is not the same.
Well, actually, I misspoke because they are not testing state of the art, but they testing the oldest version of incremental view maintenance. The first paper that got published on it, they actually implemented that one because they want to start in the beginning, I guess, and then work up with the state of the art. But yeah, it's actually not the state of the art that they're testing. And in terms of changes, it doesn't really change much. There are limitations that a lot of incremental view maintenance techniques employ. One of them is, for example, that you don't have, what is it? Circular, can't remember what it's called. Cycles inside of, thank you, cycles inside of your query. So a lot of IBM engines or implementations look at these different limitations that they can put on their queries so to make the implementation faster, but a lot of these limitations are actually you can't do them in Sparkle because Sparkle has all of them. You have cycles in Sparkle and
we have cycles also with the SQL.
Yes, but I guess less. Yes.
Why would cycles be an issue?
I'm referring to the Yanakakis algorithm, and then they made a dynamic Yanakakis algorithm out of it, and the Yanakakis algorithm doesn't support cycles, but their implementation is incredibly fast because of it, because they, in the view maintenance, I guess they can have less materialization. I think they can build better views on all the different joins and all the different operations.
Okay.
Without actually materializing them then.
But I guess my fundamental question, quote unquote, is what is the reason why they go back to relational database and sort of translate it back into Sparkle instead of staying into a graph database model from beginning to end?
Not completely sure why.
Okay.
I guess they wanted to explore how the not state of the art, but like these incremental view maintenance engines, how they would compare between relational databases and then RDF.
Okay.
That's all I can say about it.
Well, one motivation could be that you don't need to re-implement all of the IVM stuff. You only need to implement the translation from SQL to RDF.
No, because they're not using an IBM engine. Yeah, they changed so they built a relational database IBM engine, kind of.
And that they already had that?
No, or they built it. But they use like the delta query approach, which materializes queries very similar to the bind join, where you materialize a query based on like a result binding that you have, and then execute that query. So instead of redoing the whole query, you can like materialize your query and make a simpler query, and then execute that simpler query because you know beforehand which changes you have. That's the idea, and that's what they built. So the change that they need to make is very minor. Like implementing the delta query approach is much simpler than like what Incremental and Tom's Tesseract does, which is like rebuilding the whole engine to be incremental.
No. Okay. All right. Let's go to Ruben.
Okay, so my high-level goal is still the same. I want to optimize link traversal using some client-side optimization approaches. What I did isn't that much because I was at ISWC. I presented my paper on link prioritization there, and I actually won best student paper, so that's pretty cool.
Hooray.
Woo. And then, in my free time at the conference, I ran my benchmark or tried to get my benchmark running. And I did, and then I went on holiday and I sort of realized in the shower that, oh wait, there's something wrong. So then while I was doing my laundry, I fixed that and reran it. Then I looked at it again, I saw it crashed due to not enough memory or storage. So I ran all the scripts that are for expanding the partition. I thought it worked, and then I figured out when I got back it still crashed because of insufficient storage, and now I'm in sort of time trouble for my next paper. But in the meantime, I did have partial results, so I could make some code for the result analysis. So that's sort of almost done. I just need the data. So that's next for me is working on getting the results from benchmark runs. It's now running with less repetitions and with less logging because I couldn't manage to expand that partition. I don't know what's going wrong. And then when I get the results, hopefully in time, I will write the paper, or at least write the results of the paper, because I'm already working on the rest, because a lot of it is already sort of set in stone. I wrote the introduction yesterday. The abstract is also partially done. A lot of the related work is also done. So it's going pretty well on that part. And then because the deadline is in the middle of the month, I have for sure some time left over. And that will be on analyzing the results of the STEMS approach in Communica and seeing why some suddenly produce like 10 times as much results. Probably something I did. So yeah, that'll be a full month.
Okay. So you have some results, but
yes.
Like how many experiments did you do, and how, like, what fraction crashed?
All of them.
All of them. Okay.
But I got some results that are incorrect, because I figured out that I wasn't purging the cache between sequences, and there wasn't really a sort of a method to do so. So I sort of implemented the hack that you can send a context entry that says, oh, now you purge the cache, and I send it after each sequence for the next query. So I had to sort of rerun it then, and then I ran into more crashes of too little space, and they crashed just before finishing the first combination, and there was 2 combinations in each computer. So yeah, that was a shame. And what the results I have, I use, but these have only 1 repetition and are wrong. So I know what the results look like. I just know that it's not the real data.
No. So you just need to fill in the gaps.
Basically, yeah.
No. Okay. And do you think it's feasible still?
Yes. I think if I have the first results from the 2 experiments, I'll have enough to sort of know what the conclusion will be like, sort of, because it's just between tiny and small cache and medium and large cache are the sort of separations between computers. So I'll have the tiny and the medium ones, so I can sort of extrapolate probably.
Yeah.
And those will be done tomorrow, I think, the first.
Okay. And how long does a full run take?
I wanted to do 10 repetitions, which would take about 2 weeks, which is a lot of queries. But then I did 4, which will be a week, maybe a little less.
Okay. Might still be feasible.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do my best.
All right. Any questions for Ruben?
I guess it's the paper is the Elias implementation, right?
No, this one is for caching or no benchmarking caching approaches by making query sequences, and then having some sort of patterns that I get from literature on how applications are used and simulating that in these sequences.
Okay.
And then I have some simple caching approaches to work with, basically.
Okay, never mind then.
All right. Then let's move to Jitse. Welcome back.
Yes, hi. So today is my first day back. High-level goal is optimizing write performance in decentralized personal data ecosystems. Yes, next slide, you will see that there's not much about writes, but so what I did is I went for a research day at the TU, where I worked on Sparkle view rewriting with the purpose of rewriting a 1.2 query into 1.1 queries, specifically under a certain reification scheme that you would then be able to define using a set of construct queries or select queries with certain mapping heads. So like, yeah, with certain triple that is more complex than what a construct query would allow you to do. So yeah, I worked on that in collaboration with Maxim Jakubowski. I hope I didn't butcher that. Yeah, and we will continue this line of work in February probably. It's when we decided to.
He might come here, right?
Yes, it might be that he comes here to write on it. So once we have the implementation ready, because right now we have a high-level implementation where we are able to substitute the so it's this view rewriting. It's about virtual views, and we currently are able to insert the body of your construct query into the user query itself. So if you have a query, we can insert these construct bodies inside of it and substitute certain variables. That's kind of the high-level approach. But then the idea is that we have this naive rewriting algorithm, and then we perform some kind of query optimization on top of that rewriting algorithm that optimizes queries that would be, for example, you get a lot of joins over unions, and you can optimize these things, and a lot of value clauses or binds, and you can optimize these things. So this is what we'll be looking at for some more optimizations. So that's what I did there. And then I also, in Vienna, worked a little bit on Dracula because that was necessary. That's the last point. So I worked a little bit on Dracula. I was able to make Communica adopt to use Dracula, and then also implemented a proof of concept where we were able to make a Communica engine that supports lateral support without the actual implementation of the lateral operator. So the lateral was there, but it performed the union instead. So, but that doesn't matter. And that's it's almost the same, just the implementation. From a language perspective, that's already quite good. And I think it was like 100 lines maybe that we needed for this, maybe 200 lines. So that's actually quite good. And also from the modularity perspective, I think it took. You need to add one package in Communica and then link it somewhere else, and then it was already done. So that's kind of nice. I think we're happy about this. Then I also attended semantics, but I didn't write this in Vienna. But you haven't seen me since then, and where I presented the work of the concept of a modular parser, which then ended up becoming Dracula, and this concept was also quite well received. And I also attended the European Conference on Artificial Intelligence, where I presented our view on algebraic interface descriptions, and the presentation there also went quite well, and I plan to do this for you guys as well, but I need to pin a date. Even more, someone in the audience contacted me to ask whether I want to go speak somewhere on so it was apparently received quite well, and then also presented the work on that I did on the International Semantic Web Summer School. That's it. Good. My next targets are writing ESWC resource paper introducing Dracula, so that means I still have 2 weeks. I'm in the same boat as Ruben in this case, because I yesterday evening ran a benchmark where I assumed that one thing would be more speedy than another thing, but it wasn't, which is really weird because I compared Dracula speedy versus Dracula non-speedy, and Dracula non-speedy was faster than Dracula speedy. So, but only in the Sparkle 1.1 version of Dracula, not in the Sparkle 1.2 version. So now I will need to look, because probably I renamed something with the names. Yes, so today I will look at that, because once I have these benchmarks and they make sense, because now they don't make sense, so I cannot write a section about my performance metrics. So I need to look at the code, figure out why that is, and then I can write the performance section on the paper, then also write a conclusion and write an abstract, because I like to do that at the very end. And then I think it's feasible to get all of this ready.
You both know that the abstract deadline is earlier than the paper.
Yes, next Thursday, right?
No, this Thursday.
Yeah, that's what I meant internally, but yeah.
Okay. Right. So don't forget.
But I knew it, yeah.
So don't forget to submit it.
Yes. And then I'm also working on an implementation in Communica to implement the CRDT, which will allow us to have this kind of offline first behavior within Communica. And yeah, there's kind of different ways of implementing these CRDTs, and we chose to go for an Edwin set-based CRDT. Set-based is kind of the weakest form, I would say, to get the CRDT in. But since Communica's interface, right, Sparkle queries operate on the set, I think this is the easiest one to start with, and then we might be able to see from there. There's already implementations from that, but what would be different in this case is that we would serialize the CRDT itself using these recursive triples that are introduced in RDF 1.2, so these triple terms. And there's, yeah, I started with this implementation. That's it.
All right, very good. Any questions? Yes.
The CRDT, is this based on the specification that they're making, or is this something else that you're just trying to prove, hey, this is an implementation, maybe we can go with this for the specification then? Or this has nothing to do with specification on CRDTs and RDF?
I don't think this has anything to do with specification. I know that there was a community working group that wanted to start on this, but I should be registered in that working group, and it's kind of silent. And the problem with that working group was that everyone had a different view on what they wanted to do with these CRDTs, because yeah, the working group exists as CRDTs in RDF, but then you have these set-based CRDTs, text-based CRDTs, so there's all these semantic questions that you need to answer. So I also think that many people in that working group, after that first call, realized this, and that's why we haven't been in contact since.
And your goal with this is to prove what the possibilities are with the different approaches for that working group, or?
No, this is more of an engineering task, I would say, okay, where Communica needs support for the CRDTs for doing the solid projects. Yes.
Okay.
Concretely, we need it for a deliverable.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, doing a study comparing the different approaches would also be interesting, because you probably know, but I don't think there are any papers like really explaining like these are the different approaches that would be relevant for RDF around CRDTs and what their challenges are.
It's a very broad domain to my understanding, because for example, with these set-based CRDTs, if you implement them specifically with these Edwins set-based CRDTs, you get a lot of garbage. That your data structure kind of grows infinitely unless you're able to kind of mitigate this. So this is also one of the things that I maybe will look at, because the deliverable has a deadline. Being busy here. So yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I was wondering for the rewriting from 1.1 to 1.2. So do you register a virtual view and then you query over that view, or you do a query or you rewrite the query?
I rewrite the query. So you would be able to register within your query engine, for example, say, or within your query rewriter, you would say, okay, I have these views on top of my. But I create this view on top of my data, and this view would be declared using a set of construct queries. And then when you have a user query, it would be rewritten on top of the original data. So imagine you have RDF 1.1 data, I should have inserted the figure there. So you have RDF 1.1 data, and then you say, okay, given that I have these construct queries that would transform it into RDF 1.2 data, which would be done under a certain reification scheme, like for example, singleton properties or these singleton graphs or RDF reification, where you kind of split your triple in three things. So you can express that using these construct queries. That way you would get the concept of what your RDF 1.2 data would look like. You would write a Sparkle query that targets that RDF 1.2 data. But since this data doesn't really exist, you would rewrite this query that you wrote into a query that actually targets this 1.1 data.
And I don't understand why you do both. It seems like you can just do one of them.
Yeah, but he compares the different approaches.
Okay, you compare. Okay, I see.
I compared what?
You compare the different approaches, like singleton properties.
Yeah. The different reification schemes, because the work is actually more about views in general, but we have the angle of being, okay, what if you want to do Sparkle 1.2 queries on top of RDF 1.1 data, given that this data is presented under a certain reification scheme.
Okay. I think I get it, but it seems like the multiple construct query will be slower than to just rewrite.
Yeah, this is a good question. But apparently the person that I'm working with also. Yeah, no, we actually don't know. It could be that just doing this materialization of this RDF 1.2 data, and then querying your Sparkle 1.2 on top of that RDF 1.2 data might be faster than doing this rewritten query.
Because if you have an enormous knowledge graph, you will to.
Yeah, we will need to investigate whether this actual materialization is faster than not materializing.
But I guess what I'm wondering is that the materialization is dependent on the size of the knowledge graph, but the query writing is just dependent on the size of the query, right?
And on the complexity, and then you get a very complex query, and then the question is whether this very complex query is worth evaluating.
Okay, it's a very complex query when you pass it from 1.1 to 1.2.
Yes, in the way that we want to do this, yes.
Okay, but I guess I will ask later.
I also have many questions, but maybe we can have a separate.
Yeah.
All right. Then I am next. So my goal is still the same, supporting everyone in their research here to achieve these efficient read-write abstractions. So what did I do in the past month? I also went to ISWC. In the meantime, I did a bit of preparation for Communica version 5. So most of the work is actually ready now. I just need to write some documentation, and once you're ready with your ESWC paper, we can release Dracula version 1.0, and then we can also release Communica 5.0.
It's done. Okay.
Yeah, 5.0 is done. We're just waiting for Dracula.
I didn't know this. No, I didn't know. There was supposed to be many things still to
yeah, but those many things have been done. So what has been done is all of the. So we have new caching policies in Communica now, so we can easily have HTTP dependent caches. So we can have in-memory triple stores or cached JSON-LD documents that are dependent on the HTTP caching semantics. So we have a system in place for that. You can optionally also do HTTP level caching, so of the actual HTTP responses. But at the moment, I don't think that will have a big impact on performance because we already have these dependent caches, but you can enable it if you want to try it out. It was not very difficult to implement, so that's why we have it. Then the way Communica handles service clauses has been refactored, so it has been aligned with the source annotation on query operation approach, so that all of the optimizations that exist for that approach can also be applied to service clauses. Related to that, we will now also have a service-based explain mode, so that you essentially, if you give a federated query without service clauses to Communica with a bunch of Sparkle endpoints, for example, that you can basically ask Communica to produce the Sparkle query with service clauses. So Communica will essentially do source assignment internally and then print out the Sparkle query based on what Communica thinks the source assignment should be, so that you can give that query to another engine or something like that, or just to have an easy way to analyze the way Communica does source assignment. And then a bunch of smaller changes as well. But yeah, as I said, everything is, or almost everything is ready for the new release. And then I also did a bit of work for the RDF and Sparkle W3C working group, mainly presented tutorial at ISWC, which went quite well. My plans for next month. There's some work in the working group that needs to be done on comparison functions on triple terms. Yeah, a lot of work has gone into that one, and then eventually the conclusion of, or the consensus of the group was that maybe we don't need to specify them after all. So yeah, the pull request in the end is very tiny. But
so this is different than the conclusion of 3 weeks ago. The conclusion of 3 weeks ago was to base yourself for each part, I think, for each term, on the difference operated that was present.
No, so the thing that will be added now is just so we leave it up to the implementation to decide whatever they want to do. So through operator extensibility, they can or implementations can still add these comparison functions if they want, but the Sparkle spec will not define them for triple terms.
Why not this idea of 3 weeks ago with the just saying you need to compare it for each triple term in order based on whatever implementation?
Well, the problem is blank nodes.
Yes.
And that's the annoying part, because triple terms can contain blank nodes. So what do you do with the blank nodes then? Sometimes you will have to compare blank nodes with each other. So initially the thought was, okay, we just define comparison functions for blank nodes as well. But then there were some concerns, because for some systems it will be very difficult to implement that. So then conclusion was, okay, we don't do it for blank nodes, we only do it for IRIs. But yeah, there's this, it's a bit annoying to then only have it for certain types of triple terms. So in the end, we agreed it's better to just not specify it and leave it up to the implementation.
Okay. It's too late to because I liked the approach that was concluded 3 weeks ago, but I guess I will not make this even harder. Already is.
Yeah, and then I want to add a small thing in the Sparkle service description related to discovery on supported versions, but there's still some discussion around that. And then for Communica, actually making the release will be necessary, but I think that will only be for early next year. And that's all for me. Fabian, I see you have your hand raised.
Quick question. First, I think Maxime Lecoq, who is using Communica, I think he raised an issue, or at least he asked about the support of name graphs.
I vaguely remember an issue indeed, but in what context was it again?
So he's still working on the indexing strategies for solving queries. You know, he had a distributed index strategy for that, and he's implementing it with Communica. And I think one of the problem was the support for name graph, if I remember well. And I think last time I heard him present, he was still waiting for that. I just wanted to know if you were aware of that.
I'll quickly look for the issue, but in any case, we have named graph support. Was it about the provenance as named graphs?
I honestly don't remember the exact detail of the issue. I just remember him looking closely at the releases of Communica and hoping this point would be addressed.
Yeah, yeah. No one is actively working on that in any case. But maybe if that's urgent, maybe we should have a look at what's needed exactly and how we can make that happen.
Okay, thanks a lot, and do not hesitate to interact with him because he's a big fan of Communica.
Okay, cool. Can you maybe ask him to send me an email so we can discuss what's needed?
Yeah, I do that.
Thanks. All right. Any other questions, comments, either about my work or in general? Yes.
Because I think you talked during the stand-up meeting about a link to manager. But it's not for the version 5.
Yeah, that was done already.
Okay, that's already done. Okay, I didn't realize.
I presented that in the previous monthly, but I think you were not at that one.
Yeah, I don't think I was there. Okay.
But yeah, that's in there.
Okay, cool. Nice.
All right. If nothing else, we're done for today. So the next progress update, we won't have one for December because most people will be on the holidays then. So the next one will be the end of January, again at 9:30. All right. Thanks all for joining. Thanks, Fabien.
Thank you.
And see you next year.
Bye-bye. See you next year.
Bye.